The gas giant Jool is the largest planet in the entire Kerbal system. While it's only 0.024% of Kerbal's mass, it's bigger than all the other planets combined. It's actually around the top 10% of the largest gas giants near stars similar to our Sun. Because of that, there's a myth that Jool is a failed star, almost heavy enough to become one, but that's not true, as Jool would need to be at least 50 times heavier to become a brown dwarf, and 300 times bigger to reach a true star limit. Even then, it has its own system of 5 moons: Leith, Val, Tylo, Bob, and Pole. Interestingly, the first 3 are locked in a 1-2-4 resonance, and all moons are tidally locked to Jool. There's also a small ring indicating there once was a 6th moon that got crushed with tidal forces of Jool's gravity. Given the sheer mass of Jool, it's unsurprising that the gas giant has an insanely strong magnetic field. This results in an enormous magnetopause and deadly radiation belts. The outer belt is around 11 rads per hour and reaches to Tylo's orbit. To put that into perspective, the inner belt of Kerbin is 10.4 rad, but that's still manageable with extensive radiation shielding. The inner belt of Jool, though, is a 200 rad per hour grinder that'll kill Kerbals within minutes, even with full radiation shielding. Even the most sturdy satellites would malfunction within days. This makes it near impossible to use air capture for manned ships, as going through the inner belt, even at interplanetary speeds, would result in enough ionizing radiation to kill all crew. Existing active shields block just 0.04 rad per hour, so unless you have 5,000 of them, good luck. The only way is to aerobrake into an eccentric polar orbit and transition to your desired location through a series of gravity maneuvers. If that sounds a bit too complicated, that's because it is. It's for psychopaths. Normal people just capture near Tylo using its strong gravity for the Oberth effect. Nevertheless, Jool has a remarkable atmosphere with vibrant green stripes, beautiful purple auroras, and a few superstorms here and there. By the way, use code REPTILE2025 to get a 10% discount for our Jool atmosphere tours. Note that Jool's atmosphere is not breathable, oxygen sold separately. Leith is one of the few places in the universe that doesn't try to kill you immediately. There's land, there's water, and there's oxygen in the atmosphere. But the oxygen doesn't come from plants. It's actually the result of UV light splitting H2O into atomic oxygen and hydrogen, with the latter escaping the atmosphere and oxygen eventually turning into stable O2 that we breathe. I should note though that the pressure at sea level is around 0.6 atmospheres, so some Kerbals might feel dizzy. Combined with a lower gravity at just 80% compared to Kerbin, SSTOs are the name of the game to get to orbit. While Leith's atmosphere does provide significant protection from radiation, it is not enough to just not worry about it, so any colony should install active shields or radiation plating. But the beautiful auroras are totally worth it. And fun fact, some of the glow actually comes from bioluminescence high in the stratosphere. And speaking of life, it's unsurprising to find lots of it both on land and in the oceans. We've even found some skeletal remains, so there's hope of finding animal life. Overall, Leith is widely considered as one of the most prestigious destinations for tourism. Even from orbit, it's a spectacular view. Just look at those cloud spirals near the poles. Val is an icy desert that has always fascinated scientists. They say that recent landers showed that its ore is the most valuable they've ever seen. Wait, ore? Yes, Val is a miner's dream, with just 20% of Kerbin's gravity, extreme abundance of ore over the entire planet, and lots of icy patches of flat terrain to build bases. There's just one problem: it is smack in the middle of Joule's outer radiation belt, and has no active core, no atmosphere. This means the surface is bombarded with radiation, but the chemical reactions happening due to that are precisely what makes Val's regolith so valuable. Mining operations on Val often require hefty investments into radiation detoxification units, and extravehicular activity is reserved only for special occasions. Because Val is tidally locked to Joule, one sol takes almost 5 Kerbin days, so nuclear reactors are greatly preferred over solar, though Joule is still close enough to the sun for solar panels to be used on probes or space stations. Similar to Moho, there are thin clouds of electrostatically charged dust. Intense radiation also heats up the planet's core, resulting in geysers near the surface. And I've already mentioned that the surface has lots of smooth patches, but there's still plenty of rocks to mess up a landing, as well as giant frost spires that can reach tens of meters in height. There are also plenty of mountain ranges, so even the low gravity and health risk didn't stop Red Bull from building an extreme ski resort. From the scientific perspective, Val was long considered uninspiring. That is until one of the minor survey satellites reported an anomaly near the South Pole. Turns out it's a collection of immovable rocks arranged in a peculiar pattern. One theory suggests that this is the thing that prevents Val from getting bullied out of the Joule system, as simulations have shown that repeated encounters with Laythe should bring its orbit close to Tylo, which would eject it from the system. No one knows who, why, or how. Tylo is the big boy moon of Joule, with surface gravity reaching 80% of Kerbin. That is the same as Laythe, but Tylo is bigger, so if you compare their mass, you'd find it 40% heavier than Laythe, meaning orbital velocities are higher, and given that there's no atmosphere, it's rather hard to land on it. But there really isn't a reason to, as Tylo is still in the radiation oven of Joule, and while ore is plentiful, high orbital velocities make it much less attractive for industry to colonize. But it's very handy for gravity maneuvers around the Joule system. Another use for its gravity is the yearly Tylo probe contest, where students attempt to land their probes on Tylo, and every year there's at least one probe with a parachute. The surface itself is mostly flat, with small rocks here and there. The only remarkable site on Tylo is the enormous crater on the side facing Joule, but that can be viewed from space. Okay, there's the Tylo cave, but come on, that's just a cave. Even though it's the only one we know of and had to invent a new word for it. Bob is a captured asteroid in high orbit around Joule, and in Kerbal mythology it is believed to be the home of the Deep Space Kraken, a mischievous creature set to play with the ships of hapless explorers by spinning them out of control until torn asunder, then casting them into oblivion. I mean, that's obviously myths. Krakens don't exist. He's behind me, right? Pole is another asteroid in the Joule system. Even though it's brighter than Bob, it was discovered much later due to just how small it is. At only 3% Kerbin's gravity, this might seem like the perfect place for a refueling station, but ore quality is poor and the extremely low gravity makes mining stations just float away. For comparison, Bob has twice the ore and twice the gravity, so it's a much better pick. And while Pole looks more rounded from far away, up close you find that the surface is technically smooth, but very uneven, and it's difficult to pick a good landing spot for larger ships, while Bob has many flat patches for all your base building. Even then, some Kerbals still prefer Pole simply because it has a less inclined orbit, and orbital mechanics are annoying. It's also undeniably prettier, just please don't try to eat it. If you decide to visit Pole, be cautious of the spikes. lots of spikes, and they're different depending on where you are. Most of them are rocky, but highlands also have darker metallic spires. Because the surface is so uneven, you might be tempted to build your base on one of the frozen lakes. These are clay lakes and do offer smoother terrain, but have absolutely no ore. Nights on pole last more than 20 days, so bring with you some atoms to split, but please, don't melt this tiny miracle.